Okay, so welcome to another episode of Must Be the Music. I've got another important special guest, Jhot, record producer, worked a lot alongside Teddy Riley and a number of different artists, Blackstreet, Keep Sweat, and it's going to be great and different talking to him today, getting the feel of working behind the scenes with the artists and so I'm not sure, like in most interviews, where this is going to go to, but we'll definitely look forward to bringing him on board and seeing how we go. Hey, how you doing? Yes, yes. Thanks for joining and thanks for agreeing for the reschedule from last week Friday.
No problem, man.
Yes, yes.
How you doing, brother?
Yeah, yeah, holding up, you know. Yeah, holding up. Yeah, my dad was came to visit and took ill not long after he came to visit. So he was in our local
Man,
hospital. But you know, I know in all things God is good, and so he's been called back home, and it's a legacy that we just have to continue with.
that's right. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, the one thing I knew I mean that I wanted to make sure I didn't do is just to stop the momentum of what we were doing here and just giving the fans stuff to listen to understand. Lots of people loving the different interviews, learning the history of stuff, behind the
Oh yeah.
scenes stuff, and yeah. So definitely, it's going to be great, really talking to you because I know that you're going to bridge some of the old and some of the new, and fill people in on a lot of things. Now, so for our audience,
That's right.
unlike for our audience, unlike most of the guests that we have who are actually recording artists who they would have seen in videos and tours, they may not have seen you, or maybe sometimes not even know your name because your production name and your actual say name and stuff might be different. But so just give us just an intro who you are and stuff.
Well, Jason J Hot Scott. Most of my friends call me J Hot. I started producing age of 10 going on. I think I was going on 11.
10 to 11. Wow.
Yeah, I was going on 11. I started out me and my two older cousins. We started out together, and my uncle Mucho and Zach, they basically inspired us to want to do music and produce. It's funny because when I was younger, I used to want to be a singer and an artist and stuff like that. And
Okay.
then after I've been in the studio a lot with Mucho, and I said no, I want to direct the artist. So
So did you ever get into so when you go back that young and by the time when you what could you remember of your uncle? Did you see him in 9/11 or did you know he was pretty working with Teddy Riley? What was it that you remember your earliest memory?
I got a great memory. I remember as far as basic black.
Oh,
My grandmother and my grandfather, they we stayed on this street called Emerson Avenue, and I remember them coming home in the Benz and the BMWs and stuff like that. And I now that I'm older, I'm guessing they must have had something to rehearse for because they was in my grandmother's living room rehearsing
okay.
and stuff like that. So I remember far back as that. I remember my granddaddy taking the keys and driving Mucho's Benz to the store. I remember all that.
Okay.
So
Okay. And so did you then want to be but what made you change from wanting to be actually a singer performer to saying, okay, let me start learning the production side?
probably lack of support, not from Mucho and my other uncle, because they just used to pop in and out, make sure we were using the equipment and doing what we were supposed to do. Um, Probably lack of support, but then once I realized I had a gift at making music, I was just like, it's I could live through that.
Okay. I mean, when you mentioned gift, now were you because most people assume that you play keyboards or drums or guitar and stuff. What was it that what did you pick up?
I picked up a keyboard by ear.
Okay.
Yeah, I have never taken any lessons or nothing like that. So I
Okay.
can play whatever I have to.
Okay. So how did you start off early on then in your production? What was the early stages and memories of your production that you got involved in?
Um, After getting the equipment, me and my cousin, we didn't know what to do with it. So my other uncle, Mucho's brother, my other uncle Zach, he would come down and show us how to do it. But I just remember at first us thinking that we got it, and we being creative and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then they coming out like, nah, man, let's start a key. That's not how it goes. You know what I'm saying? So at first we had the passion and the drive, like we was already multi-millionaire successful producers, and that's what made them really take the time out and show us something, you know what I'm saying? But we had to prove though. They showed us a little something, you know what I'm saying? But we had to prove to them that we wanted to do it, and not just because of them.
Mm.
We had to prove to it. Like I can remember far back as girlfriends being mad at me. I would go to my aunt's house. Matter of fact, my same aunt that Mucho was telling you that they make some baker's back stuff at her house. For
Yeah.
the summertime, I used to go to her house, me, her son, my first cousin, and my Uncle Zach's son, my other first cousin. We used to go over there. And I remember in the summertime, they used to do their little club and stuff at night, but sometimes in the daytime, they used to be like, you want to go here? You want to go? I ain't really want to go. We'll go get some food, come back to the house. I ain't really want to go nowhere. And I had this one girlfriend, she used to be so upset with me because, like, once I had that equipment, it was summertime and I had to be in school. I didn't want to talk on the phone, you know what I'm saying? Or if she came over my aunt's house, and you know how, like, your parents and your aunts and your uncle, like, you have female company or something like that, you got to sit in the living room and stuff.
Mm.
Like, I just totally ignored it the whole time because I
Well, I
wanted to
get.
drum.
Oh, so it's a drum machine that you got, not like keyboards and stuff. It's the
Yeah, we got
actual.
a keyboard. We got a keyboard, a Yamaha CS1X, or something like that, and the MPC 62.
Okay. So, but those days you're just creating beats and you were able to record them, or what is it that you were doing?
At first, we used to do a lot of the music, and then we had little multi-track recorders and stuff like that. And then we graduated to like the Macintosh computer and stuff like that. Then what we would do, we would get the person that we was writing the song for to lay down the whole thing nonstop, and then we would go to Atlanta because we live my hometown like an hour and a half away from where Mucho lived at in Atlanta. So then we would go to Atlanta, and if he heard it, he liked it, we would lay it down for real.
Okay. Wow. And so what was your thoughts of what you would do? You thought as a kid you'd just be playing around with this, and you thought as you get older, what was the idea and the thoughts?
Oh, I don't know about anybody else, but I knew I was gonna be nice because I basically taught myself at a young age, like, in order to be what I want to be or what I see on TV, these guys, like, I gotta keep doing it. Like, when I'm into something, I drown myself in it. Like, I do computer stuff as well. Like, I drown myself into whatever I'm into,
Hmm.
and it ain't no half, doing it or whatever. So I knew one day, I was at my aunt's house and I was on the drum machine all day, and I fell asleep in her living room on it. Then when I woke up, I was kind of like happy and proud of myself because I was like, I knew that that's what it takes because I used to see Mucho be up until, like, man, go there in the summertime. He up until, like, we going back home. I'm 12, 13 years old. We're going back home, like, man, probably at 5, 6 in the morning.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They recording vocals all night. I'll never forget him recording Rob from 911 when they was working on Rob solo. I've never gone all night, man. Like,
Wow.
like
So, what so how did your where would you say your big break came from then, when you actually were able to sort of get your foot in the door?
um, I was working with this group called Collabo, a group Mucho had found and started working with, and he let me and my two cousins who I started out with, he let us do a song. So they had got to deal with Electro Records over there with Sylvia Ron at the time.
Wow.
That fell through, but one of the guys in the group, Ray Lavender, he used to write a lot of probably 90% of the stuff. Mucho, allowed him to do that. Me and him always had a chemistry. I had a chemistry with with who I started, but we always had a chemistry together. So he always used to say, man, if something happened, I'm gonna come back and get you. So he used to, when they went to Virginia to work with Teddy, he used to tell Teddy about me all the time. Mucho got this little young nephew. He dope, he dope, he dope. And then he ended up getting a deal with Akon
Okay.
and Geffen Records, which was on Interscope. And they wasn't really paying attention to him, and he doing all these songs with everyone. So he pulled out one of my beat CDs and he wrote this song called "Girl Got a Girlfriend," which actually I forget sometimes. It was on the Hot 100 Billboard.
Wow.
So that was like 2007. So that was my big break, and that's when I was able to like start getting a lot of work on my own.
Did you get credit for that? Did
Yes,
he
I
make
did.
you? Okay. Who was the track? Who performed the track?
Ray Lavender. The name of the song was "Girl Got a Girlfriend."
Okay.
Then we had a video version with Fabulous, the rapper, and Red Cafe.
Wow. Okay. And how old were you then?
Man, let me see. I was probably in my early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when he put out the beat and the track, did he tell you that what he was doing? Did he tell you to come back and refix it, or did you just he just did it on by himself, or what
Nah,
happened?
he went to the studio because he had a budget. Excuse me, so he can record anytime he got ready. He went to the studio and they recorded it, and he called me and let me hear it over the phone. And then back then I think I was using AIM. So he sent it to me through AIM. He's like, man, what you think about it? You think you need this? And I said, nah, it's dope the way it is. So
Okay.
um Akon ended up calling my phone. And
Wow.
I'm sitting in the studio next to Mucho. We had another studio working on another group we was working with called Chemistry. And I thought it was a joke, like this Akon for real. He's like, nah, it's serious. Like I'm saying, and Ray was like, yes, that's Akon for real hot. So he was like, he got straight to the biz, like, how much you want for this beat? Because what happened, Ray leaked it on MySpace because he was sending music in. They
And no
wasn't
one.
doing nothing. So
Hmm.
he put it on MySpace before he went to bed, and he woke up. So many radio stations had added to rotation. He didn't have to pay for no
Promotion.
radio. The label didn't have to pay for no marketing barely with that record. So when he wake up, it's everywhere. So Akon called him like, "Yo, what the fuck is this record?" And because Jim Iovine called him like, "What is this Ray Lavender?" Jim Iovine actually heard the record, and
Wow.
he know that Ray was signed to him through Akon. So he made him come out to California and shoot a video immediately. So he got straight to the point. Like, how much you want for the beat? So I looked at Mucho. I gave Mucho the phone. That was it.
Oh, so Mucha did the negotiation for the beats.
Yeah,
Okay. And
that was my biggest. That was one of my biggest paydays for track for being that young.
yeah. So then what happened though after the track had blown up? What was the next thing that happened?
It was some with the track.
No, no, after the track was out and everything, what happened
Man,
to
I started working on a lot of people's stuff around Atlanta, and then I started working on a lot of stuff with Teddy. Yeah, around that time I started working on a whole bunch of stuff. I was already working on a little bit with him, but I started working on he had went to California to do Snoop. So I started working on a lot of stuff with him, and I started doing Dru Hill and
Okay,
everything.
so before we jump to that, because as I think it's so this was around 2007 when the track comes out.
Mhm.
and so it blows up. And so, what does your uncle? How does he sort of? Does he again say, okay, you need to set up your publishing? How do you? Because there's a sense that
My
you can.
publishing and stuff was already set up. They did that from out the gate. My publishing stuff was already set up.
So, who
Just
helped you
wait.
with that? What do you mean they did it?
Actually, Tanisha Mack, she actually used to be signed. It's just one big family. She used to be signed to Teddy when she was, I think, a teenager. So her and Mucho, they kept working together for years. They were working together, man, since before I started producing. So she always used to come down to Atlanta when he bought a house in Atlanta. He was back and forth from Atlanta to Virginia.
Yeah.
And she always used to come down, and she became like, our auntie. Me and her used to work closely together. Sometimes Mucho would do some songs with her. Then it got to the point where he would go to the gym or whatever and say, "Okay, what you got?" Work my nephew, whatever. So we became real close, and she became like an aunt. So she actually signed us up and all that stuff for our publishing and ASCAP and all that stuff.
Okay, but then your uncle made sure that. Did you make sure that you're? Because I think we've heard a lot of stories about publishings and being taken advantage of. So were you sure that you signed something that you were not
Oh yeah,
being?
Mucho wasn't having that. I got all of my publishing on that record.
Okay, okay.
All of my
So
publishing.
so now you got yourself sorted out, and so when you are putting out your beats and stuff, at least you know it's getting protected and stuff. So you have that record that's going up. You're helping work with your uncle. Um, w- did so you did Teddy reach out to you as well, or what happened?
I had just started working with Teddy a little bit before then.
And
I was
how in what way? Because you're saying you're working with him almost as if. How did you start working with him?
I started working with Teddy when he moved to Atlanta, like a little bit before this situation with Akon, and he moved to Atlanta. So of course, Mucho live in Atlanta, so that's the first person he gonna reach out to.
Okay.
So um, Mucho like, we going by Teddy house. He had been telling me that the whole week. I'm like, man, yeah, right. I mean, like the studio we had like one, two. We had two main rooms. It was a building, but we had a bunch of workspaces. So I'm in one in the workspace. We'll make a workspace out of a closet, anything. So I'm in like the utility place. I done set up a studio in there. And he
Yeah.
coming there, leaning at the door. We're going to Chatty House tonight. Get ready. I'm like, man, whatever. You've been saying this. You know what I'm saying? No, for real. You want me to come out there? And he was like, make a CD with your stuff on it. So I'm like, okay. So I started getting some stuff together. The type of producer I am, I never been the one to think like just because I did it, that gotta be it. All of my stuff is hot. So I got some beats together that I had just did. I was doing a few beats that week, just waiting on the opportunity to go out there. So before we went, I think I did like two more. And those two more I did, and I put on the CD. Those is favorite too.
Wow. So
We
you
went
went.
out there.
Yeah. So you guys drive up to Teddy's place. Was that your first time meeting him?
I think that was my first time meeting him like that, but I had met him once when I was younger.
Okay. So you meet him at his house and stuff, and he's now. Does he say, "What do you got for me?" What was that first meeting like?
He was like, yeah, they was just reminiscing on stuff, whatever. He's like, yeah, this my nephew I was telling you about. Mucho like he played talk box and vocal. Mucho always got a joke. He's like, yeah, he think he you. Like he do all this stuff. Teddy's like, what's up, man? He was like, let me hear some of your stuff or whatever. Then I played the CD. Like he liked everything on there, on the CD. And we exchanged numbers. Mucho was like, yeah, it's cool. We exchanged numbers. And ever since then, that was it. I
So
was out
then,
there every night.
so what were you doing when you then? So you moved from the little studio that you were working with Mucho to work with Teddy. What were you working on?
With Teddy,
Yeah. Did you start working with him right away?
immediately. At first, he was breaking me in. It was like I was just doing stuff, and he was like, well, do something like this. I'll do something like that. He was trying to, now that I'm older, I see, I didn't know what he was doing then, but he was trying to see how much potential I had. Do something like this, do something like that. You know what I'm saying? And then let me see. I would just work on everything he asked me to work on, like just different styles. And he found out I can mix a little bit. So then I like stuff that he was turning in for, like for meetings and stuff. I just wanted to be around in the mix. So we'll help him, like we'll be mixing stuff together and stuff like that. And I would start making drum kits for him or giving him 808s or whatever, stuff like that. And then I just did a bunch of stuff with him. And then he got me a passport, and we went on
Okay.
a Tanzania cruise together.
So you hadn't flown, you haven't got a passport, you hadn't done any of that before.
Now I had flown, but I hadn't had a passport.
Okay.
So,
Oh, local flights. Okay. So in those early days when you were the stuff you were making, did it get released with any local artists, or what happened with the early stuff you guys were making?
not yet, because one thing about working with Ted, we did go back and use some of that stuff, but one thing about working with Ted is like a lot of that stuff, when like certain artists reach out to him, I want to work with you, we'll tailor make songs for certain artists. So then when he go work with a new artist or we work with someone else, that's one thing I did learn from him. I don't get stuck on just because I made this, I'm gonna give anything to this artist. But some of the stuff that we tailor made for certain artists, we would later go back years later, many years later, and just use the beat or something for something else, for someone else or whatever. But I went to California. Okay, so now I'm jumping the gun, but um, I started getting placements with him after that. The first years was just testing, doing this, and when he did turn a lot of my stuff in, but like I said, we were switching with the time. We wasn't holding on to any of that stuff. If someone didn't take it, we moved to the next thing. But then after all that stuff, man, we started getting placements and working stuff together.
So, because so by this time now, was Teddy with any of the groups? He had finished with Blackstreet, he was brilliant guy. So was he just on his own? What was going on around him?
He was trying to put Blackstreet together. One of the first person that was at the house when I went out there, like a few weeks later, was Chauncey. He was trying to put the Blackstreet, and then it all crumbled. Then he tried to do the Dita group. That didn't work out. So then we were just producing on stuff. Then he said he's gonna do the God thing. That didn't work out. Then he go back. It never stuck. We were working on songs for Blackstreet and God.
So, and I think a lot of fans would want to find out. So, had Guy just released another level 2, and so by the time you guys were working on the Guy stuff, what had they already released
That
another?
was that. This God stuff is going to be their next new album after God 3.
Oh, so he was working on the Guy. So he was working first on the Guy stuff before Blackstreet.
He was working on the Blackstreet stuff when I first started working with him.
Okay.
He was working with his wife at the time, Melinda.
Okay.
So,
but did you get any insights to why it fell through?
at the time, I wasn't paying attention to all the business stuff. It was just what he needed me to do. I was just doing it. And when he said, "Okay, we're not working on that. We're working on this," I just rolled with.
Okay. And then so the Guy stuff also fell through, and then you
Yeah.
okay.
Actually, we did. We started back. We took. I went on tours with Blackstreet and Guy. So the tours were still going strong with Chauncey and Teddy with new members and stuff like that. Then 2010, I moved to California with Teddy. We was doing a Guy tour. That's when we was supposed to work on the new Guy album and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But it's just 3 people who's all grown men and all bosses in their own way.
Yeah.
It's just hard to agree on stuff.
Yeah. Oh, kind of.
Hello?
Okay. Yeah. I lost you for a second. So and I guess somebody would be watching this and saying, okay, so from the time Teddy was in Atlanta to the time he moves to Chicago, to California, how long was that where you were working with him doing all this stuff?
Let's see. All of this stuff, as far as this was before we was going to work on Guy, but from the time I went out there with Mucho until 2010, it was like Blackstreet stuff, and just a lot of working on. He was working on his wife at the time, and just a little bit of everything. Remixes for Sierra, all type of stuff.
Okay, so one person. So I would be looking at this and saying, okay, a good 2-3 years, you're learning from Teddy. But it's not like a job in a grocery store where every month you get a paycheck. How does it work when you're working in production, when you're creating music, and if it's not being recorded, released by an artist and generating income, how else do you generate income in those early days?
Well, of course, he didn't want me to go out and get no job and get discouraged and stuff like that. So, like, a lot of times he'd just take care of what's needed. You know what I'm saying? I need clothes, I need shoes, I need whatever. I need to do something for my mother. You know what I'm saying? So long as you're working, you know what I'm saying? That's what he look at. You know what I'm saying? He'll make sure you got the necessities, but you got to bust your own butt to keep working to get the placement, to get the big money that you want.
Okay. So, and I guess people listening who may want to create as a producer and stuff were wondering, if you sign to under a producer, a big producer, you don't negotiate a salary, and if you don't get a hit, so that's the kind of questions that they'll be wondering, like, wow, if I wanted to get into as a producer and I'm working under Jermaine Dupri or Timbaland and stuff, do I expect them to say, okay, here's your salary, here's your monthly salary, and then when you get a hit, then that's where your publishing will kick in?
Yeah, that's how it should be. That's how it's supposed to be. I know that Dallas and Dr. Dre do that for their producers. They get a salary or whatever. And once it started, kick in, like you said, and all that stuff, then the terms and stuff reverse. But the thing about Teddy, this was a lot of people didn't know. The thing about Teddy, I was one of the top producers or guys under him, and I'm not just saying that. I'm not a bragging type person, because I wasn't just turning in beats. If he needed help with engineering, he needed top box vocal, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that I'm Teddy or I'm Timbaland or no one else, but we kind of did the same thing, because he was one of the person that I idolized growing up, him and Roger Troutman. So the thing about with Teddy, when a lot of people don't know this, like, Teddy would never put me on the paperwork. Even when I started getting placements with him, it was more like an uncle nephew thing. Like, him and Mucho, they had their ups and downs, but at one point they was like brothers, so it was like an uncle nephew thing. He never, and seen him put other people on paperwork, but he never. He just had me under him. I never had to sign any paperwork.
Oh, so you mean that you could leave at any time? He didn't keep you trapped?
Yeah, but I wasn't leaving at any time. I was very loyal to Teddy, man. When I had to step out and lead, that's when I did that.
Yeah, but so I guess I wondered. So, when you are working on beats, and I think we looked at this on the situation that Teddy found himself when he worked with Gene, where he for many years he was not listed on My Prerogative. He was not listed on a lot of tracks that he did. Gene's name was there as a writer producer. Even 2300 Jackson Street, Gene Griffin's name is as the writer and producer, and Teddy's name is there just as playing keyboards, because he didn't know about the paperwork and stuff.
I actually learned about the paperwork early, like, cause Mucho had been through it enough.
Yeah.
So when it used to be a lot of times where me and my two cousins, we used to be in Atlanta. Then there used to be times where it flipped because they was older. They wanted, they may have to go see their girl or whatever they had to do.
Yeah.
There would be a lot of times where, if I didn't get in a lot of trouble, or if, my mom, my grandma had a few tough times, whatever, I go with Mucho. So I actually paid attention. Mucho will tell you, I didn't ask him a lot of questions, but I listened and I watched a lot. I can see Mucho do something in the track and not ask him one thing, and then I'll go do it. So I have been hearing about the paperwork side through Mucho and his manager at the time, which was actually our manager at the time, me and my cousin Jeff. So Jeffrey Borders, like so by the time I knew about the paperwork and stuff. Like even my paperwork with the Ray Lavender situation, Akon, my paperwork was right. Like Mucho wasn't going for it. Like it happened to him, but nah, like he wasn't going for that. So I knew about the paperwork by the time I got with Teddy.
Yeah. So then, but and I know Mucho mentioned about some of the things from his side, but so um, did any of those stuff that you worked with Teddy make it out that actually really made a hit?
Some of the stuff I can't. I wouldn't say hit, but I did a lot of stuff that I know it was compensated for.
No, so did you? So did any of your tracks get recorded and performed and released by established artists?
Oh yeah, but a lot of my stuff that I got recorded and performed and released was a lot of that was on my own. Like Dru Hill, like that's when Teddy. It's like when I did the Ray Lavender thing. Then I did the Teddy. When I did the Ray Lavender thing, the reason why Teddy wasn't involved with that because he went out to work on Snoop because he had already discussed with Mucho, being on him. So he wasn't there. So of course Mucho gonna step up to the plate. So he went to go work on Snoop, ego tripping.
Yeah.
But then he came back, we started working. Then he left again. But every time he leave, I would get the stuff on my own. Like people like, oh, he worked with so I did the Dru Hill.
What did you do with Dru Hill?
I worked on their last album. I did 3 records on there.
Okay. By yourself, or did you?
No, I produced them.
Okay. So when you so what are the tracks that you did with them?
I did Making Love, which I wrote and produced the whole record. I did Can't Stop, which was written by my cousin and Nokio. Nokio is a great writer. I used to be on the Nokio too.
Okay.
And I did what's the other I did? Can't Stop. If You Fall, which was written by Nokio.
Okay. And how did any of those get released? Any of those 3 get released?
Yeah, it got released. And my name was on every record about 5 times. Like, because I
Wow.
was engineering, recording, producing, doing the vocoder, doing the talk about, writing. Like
And then after the Dru Hill, what else? What did you get to do next?
after Dru Hill, I think I did Tony Terry. After Tony Terry, I did.
What did you do, Tony?
But
Because
I always work with Keith Sweat. I'm actually at Keith Sweat Place right now.
okay. But what did you do with Tony? Because I'm going to be speaking with him, in a couple of days. So we're interested to find out.
I did Dance for Hours, and I be forgetting, man, like some of the success of the work that I've been done. Like Dance for Hours on the R&B charts for a while. I'm quite sure when you talk to Tony, he can tell you how long. Like I be trying to just move on to the next thing, not get arrogant and all that stuff. But I forgot about that, man. That was on the R&B charts for a while.
Oh, what song was that?
It's called Dance for Hours,
Dance for Hours. Okay. Okay.
written by my boy Andre Riley.
Okay. And so how would people get to connect with you? How would they know to get in touch with you for production and stuff?
They know me for 2 things: for being Mucho's nephew and Teddy's nephew. Like
Okay.
that's the guy. He could do the talk box, the vocal, the blah blah blah. And then like another thing when I was just younger, I used to come up with Mucho a lot, man, like by myself, and he had me at around everybody. Tricky Stewart and Tab, his writer at the time. He had me around like Soleil and Genuine. Like I was everywhere he went, I was there.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. And
working
so,
with Teddy, I started being the guy. He's Teddy guy that can do the talk about just like him on the vocoder, just like you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Because Teddy used to brag on me. Now, there's one thing he did used to do, he used to brag on me a lot.
Wow.
But people would come back and tell me. He would never tell me, but people would tell me.
Okay. And so that was opening doors for you?
Yeah, even when it wasn't working, like, you know, it was like more of a situation like Teddy, trust this guy to come in and do this or do that. You know what I'm saying? So it became that situation. Even when I wasn't working with him, like, oh, I got to work with him because Teddy allowed him to do this or Teddy trusted him to do this. So
Hmm.
it became that.
So then, so you're splitting up. So when you're doing production like Tony Terry, Dru Hill, and these are from us who are not in the music industry, is that a steady income? So the song gets released on a record. Do you then think, well, now I can, this is it, or
All of those records, I'm gonna put it like this. Even though like I wasn't a millionaire or nothing like that, but all of those records that I named that I produced, they got so much airplay and all that stuff. They actually kept me from getting the 9 to 5. So it was paying my bills. And, once you get a song, even before you get the check from the sales, the radio check, that always come in first. Like those checks be crazy. And it be like a lot of my friends that had regular jobs and stuff like that, like some of my checks, because I didn't have a publishing deal. So that means I get a publishing check 1 month and a writer's check. My check be more than sometime where they probably made 5 or 6 months.
wow.
So those songs, they took care of me.
So then, does that make you hungry then to really start working, getting perfecting your craft, getting the hits? Because I'm just wondering now if I was a producer and I'm like, if I get this track that's on the radio that really stays there, I know what the income is. So I'm gonna really work hard so I can get my stuff. You know, Timberland puts out a track, you know it's gonna stay on the radio because he just has a way of making beats and making songs. And I think Pharrell and the Neptunes had that sort of ability in the past as well. Did you
Oh
then,
yeah.
was that the hunger to try, like, I need to start working, find something new?
That's a little fraction of it, but for the most part, I just knew that I didn't have the hit that I wanted and I needed. Like far as my dreams and stuff like that, I want to be known. I want everyone, not just a few people who's familiar with Teddy or Mucho. Like I want to be the guy that's known for giving you some good music, and I want to always be able to work and make money from my craft. So like, what kept me going was me. All of that stuff was fine. It wasn't enough. I never got too happy about the things that I was doing. I didn't allow myself. You know what I'm saying? So, um, my grandma, God rest her soul, wanting to take care of her and give her everything. You know what I'm saying? Give my mom I had a brother and sister that I helped my mom take care of when I was younger. You know what I'm saying? When we all was younger, I would do things to help my mom with them. So that kept me going. Like that was my drive. Like I ain't made enough money to take care of all these people that I love.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Then I had a son 2014. So I turned it up a little bit even more then.
Mm.
So that's when I signed to Chauncey from Blackstreet.
Okay, so what do you mean you signed to Chauncey? Because were you not? I, so what do you mean you were signed to Chauncey? Because I was on the impression you've got your own publishing. You were making a name for yourself as a producer, and
Yeah,
you were working with Teddy. Yeah.
I was, but that's one of the times that, me and Teddy did our little split up or whatever, and I needed someone that was known, that had done great business ventures, um, that could help take me to the next level, because I had just had my kid, and the work that I was doing, it wasn't enough. So I reached out to Chauncey, man. That was one of the greatest decisions I had ever made in my life, man. He wasn't a producer, so I was at all the meetings. I was in front of the boards. I was controlling all of the music. He was just controlling the business part.
Oh, so okay. So I think a lot of us would not have an understanding of Chauncey's background, because I think because when we saw Blackstreet, he seemed very reserved, and he just seemed more so just as a singer. So you're mentioning that you're talking about the business side and ventures and stuff, and so it's that sense of, oh, so he was actually a businessman other than just being the black in Blackstreet.
Oh man, Chauncey was soaking it all in when he was working under Teddy, which that's what you're supposed to like. When I was working with Teddy, it's certain business thing I learned that I use now, but Chauncey was soaking it all in. And he was able to go get a situation on his own with Busta Rhymes, you know what I'm saying, a solo deal. And
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
he learned a lot of stuff from Busta. He actually said he learned more of what to do, how to do business the right way with Busta. So, even when I was working with Teddy, one of the time him and Blackstreet was together, as far as him and Chauncey and the members.
Yeah.
Every time I needed something handled, like, okay, I did this track for such and such, and I haven't received any royalties yet. Like, he would always say, talk to Chauncey, because he don't play when it comes to business. He's smart. So when I was just sitting, when my son was about to be born, I was just thinking, I'll never forget it. I was just sitting in my studio, and like, I'm a fair person. I'm talented. Who can take me to the next level? And that popped in my head. The vision of where I was sitting, me and Teddy been in the studio when he said that to me, that it was like deja vu. It popped in my head. I reached out to him, and not even 2 weeks later, we was over in Australia working on the artists over there.
So what did you sign with Chauncey? Because I guess it's on the states. It's an interesting
Management,
that. Hmm?
management contract.
So he would sort of help manage and guide your career. Or what? But it's is it that what exactly would that be so people can get a sense?
He got, as a manager, they supposed to get out there and whatever you do, if you're a singer, a rapper, producer,
Hmm.
if you're a painter, artist, whatever, if whoever manages you supposed to go out and basically, I'm gonna make it simple. Go make it happen.
Okay.
Go bring you situations where you can take care of yourself, and
And they
you
get
know,
a cut from what you would think the revenue that you're getting.
yeah, yep.
Okay. So you sign you get to sign with him. Was that a conflict with Teddy then? Thinking, wait a minute, you're
Was
supposed
work.
to.
I took. That's one of the times we took a break. So it was like Teddy, Teddy leave, come back. Then in between those breaks, in between the last couple times, that's when I started working with Johnson.
Okay. So then he's getting artists, he's getting you to produce, and they're moving up. What was your vision as to what you wanted to do? Because um, it's quite interesting when you look at um, people who started off as just producers and beat makers who really took it to another level. So Pharrell is one, Timbaland's another, Swiss Beats is another, even Dre. They started just making music, but they started to see things bigger and than just being in the studio, especially because unlike hip hop, R&B, the market isn't as big as it was in the 90s and the early 2000s. So hip hop is there. So from your point of view, then, when you signed with him, did you have a vision as to what kind of artist, entrepreneur, producer that you wanted to be? Did you have some like who you thought, this person is like the benchmark of where I wanted to see myself and beyond?
I wanted to do what Dr. Dre did.
Okay.
And Chauncey actually made that happen. He took me over to Australia. We got with some people over there. We formed a label. They gave me a percentage of the record label. We formed a publishing company. They gave me a percentage of the publishing company. Um, Promotional company, all of that stuff, and they made me the lead producer of the whole organization. Working with all the artists and stuff like that. And they gave me a contract to put up my own album, so I was just going to have a bunch of features on.
Okay. Okay. Did that come out?
Um, uh, the female artist that we're working on, her stuff came out in Sydney. Her a few of her singles.
Okay.
But you know how it goes. Like it didn't go all the way through, but a few of her singles came out and it was successful over there. And I was in the newspaper in Sydney, me and
Mm,
Chauncey. And Rodney Jerkin, he was in the newspaper in Melbourne. So we was hearing about it what we was doing at the same time.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's all a learning experience, just testing the waters and stuff like that. Um, what's been when you look back then at your career, what's been the sort of highlight stuff that you would say that you've worked on it and it's really made a big impact?
He sweat.
Okay, so and I think I wanted to okay, so I guess you mentioned that you're you're in his house. So how did the meeting with Keith come about?
Been knowing Keith since I was a kid because my uncles worked with him, and he's always been like family. So I've been knowing him. He was already familiar with me, and he needed some talk box and vocoder, and he's like, I got this song, I wanted to have a Blackstreet feel. It's already written and stuff like that. And he had told my uncle Zach, best friend Wally Mars is someone you should get on your show too. He's responsible, I'm gonna say this, for bringing Charlie Wilson back. So he was working with Keith, and Keith was like, "Yeah, my little nephew." He was like, "Oh, Jay, yeah, I know Jay." So I came over and I did the talk box and the vocal on the song, and that was the first time I had gotten paid minutes after I completed something, because there's normally paperwork and all this stuff you had to go through.
Yeah.
But because we were family, so I said, "All right, cool. I'll get ready to dap him up." I said, "Okay, I'll get your invoice." And when he dapped me up, what I asked him for, it was in my hand. I was like,
Wow.
that was fast.
So was that his last album that you did?
Yeah, that's the album that me, Teddy, and
Okay.
another producer worked on. That album was nice, but we put a lot of work in the album. But it was more the label, because Keith normally just be his own label, but he had did something with Sony Red, and they just didn't promote it like they did the other one. But now the album before this, I worked on. Um, I did a record. I did two records on them. One called Good Love, produced by me, written by me and Keith. And I did another record with Karen Anderson, who wrote "Don't Leave," called "Feels Good." But that album was the one that did it for me. Like those royalties, they was it was amazing just from that one record.
Wow.
And it went number one. So that's what did it for me.
And so, and now you mentioned that you're back. Are you back working with Keith, or what's the situation with him now?
I'll never start working with Keith. Only time I'm not working with Keith is when he's taking a break in between the album.
Yeah, but no, but from his last album that he did, that he
Oh,
featured
we're working
Teddy.
on a new one, yeah.
So you're working on a new album with him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So right
And
now, I'm getting ready to get into some production for him. Right now, some of the production that was on the last album, he realized that they're great songs. He's been revamping them, and I've been on the audio engineering, the mixing side, because I also engineer and mix as well. So I got a few jobs. I'm a talk box player for some people's records. Then I'm a mix engineer and I'm a producer.
Okay. And then you mentioned, did you mention that you might be also because are you still working with Chauncey?
Yeah, Chauncey, my manager right now. Right now, we're going back. We're working on Blackstreet. We're 90% done. We're going back to Virginia January the 2nd, day after New Year's, to complete the album. It's going to take us about maybe 2 weeks.
Okay, so I guess a lot of people will be interested. So, um, I know that they were touring Eric Middleton, um, Levi Little, and Chauncey. And am I missing anyone? Eric Williams? Is it
Eric Williams,
Mark
Levi
Middleton?
Little, Mark Middleton, Chauncey
Yeah,
Black.
and Chauncey. Um, I think Eric was probably one of the best vocalists that they've had. People might disagree and think it was Dave Hollister, but I think Eric powerful vocals and no, sorry, Mark Middleton, just powerful vocals. And then I liked Eric's very reserved sort of soul singer. He always reminds me of Jaheim.
We call
What's
Eric's brother.
but
That's crazy that you said Jaheim. He wrote and produced a lot of Jaheim first stuff.
okay, it kind of yeah, because when you look at him, he's always very reserved, and I liked he liked drama, and I also liked um, Can't Get You Out of My Mind of the
Yeah.
black of the black.
Eric wrote and produced that.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, it was very different from the rest of the stuff, and I really liked those two tracks. Um, but it's interesting now. Do they have a deal that you're going to, or is it just more so they're just right?
No,
They're going to
they have a deal. But Chauncey's gonna talk about that a little later. Yeah, they have a deal. They have a
okay,
situation in Amsterdam.
okay. So so what did you do? So when the album comes out, what would you have done on the album? Or would you have done any of the tracks, or would you have just?
The whole entire album, like even when tracks come in from another producer, and even if I like it, Chauncey and the group feel like it's nice, but sprinkle or do this or do that. So I did the whole album. Is with the exception of a couple tracks, but I still co-produced those records. So basically, I did the whole album.
Okay, okay.
I'm an
So
executive producer of the album.
okay. So that's and okay. I guess it was strange because I think I overheard during the verses that Teddy said he was getting back with Blackstreet to do some work, but I guess it fell through.
I don't know.
That's fine. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. He was saying it on Instagram Live, saying that he was saying, yeah, get ready to expect some stuff. But I guess yeah, things do happen. We could agree to do stuff, and then when time comes, it's other things come through and stuff. So what's in the horizon for you now? I mean, you're still doing some stuff with Keith. You've got the Blackstreet album coming out next year. What else are you looking forward to?
I'm waiting on Tamar to send for me. I got records for her that she want to cut.
Who's that?
Tamar Braxton.
Is she back? Is she back ready to sing?
Yeah, I'm waiting on her. Her manager is a real good friend of mine and my family and stuff like that. Lonnie Ferguson and Lil Lonnie Jr. Manny like one of my best friends. So they work on her management team and stuff like that. So I got records that's ready to go for her. I'm just
Okay.
waiting on her to the green light it, and then we're gonna go make that happen.
Okay. And when do you expect the Keith stuff to drop?
Sometimes next year, maybe spring or something like that.
Okay.
I don't
Now-
know, maybe because Keith he know what he wants. So Keith ain't one of those guys that it take 6-7 months to work on an album.
hmm. Yeah. So what about you mentioned earlier about your joint venture, the stuff from Australia. Has that sort of fallen through and you do stuff out?
Yeah, that was an old chapter. We made a few hits over there, big songs on the charts over there. We did that, and you know how things just no, not because of us, but you know how things just don't. I'm quite sure you have interviewed enough artists to see. Oh, I had a couple of hits. What happened to that? You know, some things just don't stick. But it was
Yeah,
very successful still.
yeah. I think the other question that I do have again also is the is that when you're looking at your stuff now, a lot of us used to think, how come as a producer, if you can do a lot of your own stuff, why you don't get your own artists, stop doing hits
Oh,
for them and releasing them as opposed to writing tracks for others.
well, I have my J2 Entertainment,
Okay.
my company, which Chauncey is managing that, and I got some artists that I'm working on their stuff, but I'm just sort of waiting to finish all this Blackstreet stuff, this Tamar stuff, because like those are the things that make way for that for those artists and stuff that I
Okay.
have. But I do have my own entertainment company named after my son. He's
Okay.
exactly Scott the second, so J2 Entertainment. I got like I have 4 artists right now.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think just as we get to wrap up, then do you think there's enough? Because most of the people who watch the show um, are very much of the '90s. And the '90s is when the music was really dominated by R&B, and it was a lot of the artist had originality. The production was very unique. So you'd had Jade. It was very different from SWV, very much different from Brownstone, different from Escape. You had loads of girl groups. You had guy groups. You had singers. Right now, we don't really have that kind of competition. I don't even know if there are any female groups anymore. I don't know if there's
Well, I'm
any.
bringing all that back.
Okay. It
Yeah,
has,
I'm serious. I'm serious. Like I'm so happy that I started producing at such a young age because I know how to bring the new and the old together. You know what I'm
okay.
saying? So like even with my mixing, I still use analog, even though I use the computer. Like so, I'm good at merging the two. So, well, my artists, they all different, and they don't sound alike, even though a lot of it produced by me. But it reminds you of the '90s R&B when it was just real heavy and serious.
Mm,
But I'm smart enough to mix it with a little bit of today because you got to keep up with the time.
yeah,
And I think that's what Jim and Jam and Terry Lewis are great for. They don't get enough credit. They still got they old thing, but they can keep up with the time and
yeah,
merge. That's what I'm doing with my artists.
yeah. I mean, the new stuff by Jimmy and Terry with featuring Babyface, it sounds very similar to Bending Knees, End of the Road. It sounds, but it's still new, but it sounds very familiar. And that's to their credit. And I think not many producers, and I remember speaking to your uncle about this, that you know Bruno Mars shows that there is a market for 90s stuff when you sprinkle it. So he got Mr. Talkbox to do 24 karat, which in itself was a throwback to Zap and Zap, but then also it took understood that it needs to be updated. But that album was so big because it took people back to what they missed, and he did the whole album.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most of our R&B art producers and don't seem to see what people want, and they keep doing the same auto tunes and trying to sound like Future and I can't remember all the rappers who are singing and sound the same, and they're like, yeah, we need to do that, and they're realizing that there's a young generation who listen to that, but they're very fickle. They go to the next stuff. They go to Drake. They move around, but the R&B stuff is getting left behind, and it's hip hop that's really making sort of the money and getting the airplays and getting all the stuff happening.
hmm Well, with the new Blackstreet project, you finna get some real R&B with a little bit of the new. It's not too new where the core fans will be like upset, and it's not too old to the point of the newer generation will be like, nah, I can't rock to that. It's still, you still got those timeless classic ballads and mid tempos and big Earth, Wind and Fire sound, and we still got all that. And every member in this group, vocals are A1. You have a lot of artists that came out back in the day, and you hear them now, and it's not different, or they got a lower to keep. Everybody is singing. Chauncey, Levi, Mark, Eric, everybody is singing. You still get the talk box and the vocoder because I'm doing that. Like, I don't think there could ever be a Blackstreet album without those elements. That's what kind of makes Blackstreet.
I mean, you've set yourself a high standard because this will be the first Blackstreet album without Teddy involvement. So I think it will be very much scrutinized by Blackstreet fans, and I think that's probably one of the things that would be good, for Chauncey to get his side of the story out, because I think not Modern Dirt, but just to let us understand
Yeah,
the
I spoke
music.
to him about it. He's ready when you are. He's one thing about Chauncey. You can never find an interview where he's just bashing anyone.
Oh no, yeah,
He
but
know how to tell the truth, but keep it. He's very classy when it comes to the way he speaks and the way he handles things. So you won't get no drama.
Yeah, and everything we do here is very positive. So I would there's so much, division. There's so much hate. There's so much sorrow this year. It's taken a toll on all of us. I'd never thought that I'll leave the. In fact, it still hasn't hit me about my dad. So to imagine. Yeah, thank you. So to imagine, to try and use any platform to try and sow hate and division. That's far from it. So it's important that we celebrate. People loved Pastor Mike because it was celebrating. I think they fell out of love with Verses not because it wasn't doing a great thing, but after the Teddy and Babyface episode, the Erica and Jill Scott wasn't too bad, but then it started to go back into hip hop, and it became very much current. And what they loved about sort of the Teddy and the Babyface one was that sense of connecting to an era of time when life was just fun and music was fun, and people really got into that. And I think that's why Pastor Mike has really become a lot more popular, because it's celebrating that type of timeless music and not no divisions and stuff. So yeah, but I think as I wrap up on every interview, even though you don't see it published yet, but I always used to ask my guests that if you were stuck on an elevator and you needed to, they wanted to say, okay, you're stuck for about a couple of hours. While we get it fixed, what movie would you want to watch so we can get you entertained?
What movie?
Yeah.
Quincy Jones Netflix series.
Okay. Now I actually do want a movie. So no.
Oh, you want a movie?
Yeah. What movie?
Boomerang.
Boomerang. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know who. Yeah. Okay. That's a good one. So they're about to bring them Boomerang. So that's the Eddie Murphy one. It's actually good. I haven't watched it in a long time, so I may go watch it. Um, they will actually. Okay. Come on, Jay. We're going to put on the Boomerang, but we put a song on just before the movie starts. What song would you want to listen to?
More Bounce to the Ounce.
Okay.
By Roger,
You know, it's amazing that in the 80s, I still remember the whole talk box by Roger Troutman, and it was very unique, very different. Computer Love. It was his music very timeless, even though it was done in the 80s. And I remember speaking to your uncle, and he said that he was working with Roger's nephew, who's also on the Vogue box. And I thought, wow, you know what?
Rufus?
I don't know, but Mucho mentioned that he knows there's one of Roger's nephews or nephews.
Mucho actually worked with Roger's son.
maybe it's his son, but he did say one of his
Lil
maybe
Rod.
maybe it's his son, yeah. And I said that how much that that's the name recognition. If he still knows how to do it as good as his dad, then it's easy to blow up and stuff. But there is such an affinity with the top box if it's done correctly. Um, but yeah, so I mean, definitely, that, I think are there tracks that you've done that people might not have known as you that you think you want to be that you're proud of that you think these are five of my best tracks that people should say that will probably would be surprised that you did.
One of the most incredible piece of work that I'm most proud of is a lot of people don't know. I actually think it's Mr. Talkbox on Lil Duval record. That's me.
Okay,
Pull up.
okay,
Yeah, that's me on the Talkbox. So I'm more proud of that than the actual production stuff because I'm just happy to have a record out there where it's heavy in Talkbox and I can make my idol, God rest his soul, proud, Roger
yeah,
Troutman.
yeah,
Most man, I'm most excited and honored to be a part of that
wow,
than a lot of stuff I've done because it's me. You don't understand how long I've been fighting to really get my shine on the Talk Box. Like actually, what Mr. Talk Box is doing. I've been doing that, but people's like, oh, it's too much. It's too, oh, no, no, no. People stop me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm probably one of the best Talkbox player in the same arena with Ted Edmonds, Talkbox, and all those guys.
so yeah, so it's interesting because most people would hit a top box because Roger passed away in the early 90s, and after California Love, that was sort of the biggest stuff, but he didn't, apart from those who knew him from the 80s and Roger and Zapp, so most of the others were not really, that was about it. But because Teddy made it really popular, a lot of people would always think, oh, that must be Teddy, and Teddy really embraced it, especially with the big Blackstreet tracks and stuff like that. But then Mr. Topbox did, even when I heard the 24 Carat by
Bruno.
Bruno Mars. I thought, oh, that sounds like Teddy. It's quite easy to just always think Teddy because he was no he. Most people weren't using it besides him, or maybe they were, but it just seemed like he made it very mainstream, and people just always associated that with him. Um, but Mr. Topbox has started to because he does a lot with gospel and he goes back and forth, so he's really making it out there. Um, but we don't really know anyone else who, because he's called Mr. Top Box. So that's quite and he features on the record. So then his name becomes popular. Um, but unless you are doing it in a video or we're saying featuring J Hot, it's kind of hard to know that you actually are doing this.
So all the Blackstreet stuff, all their videos, Chun's gonna have me in all of the videos, and it's just not because he managed me, the group. Also, I'm gonna be doing my talk about stuff in their videos and on their tour. So
Okay.
I've been doing talk box. Jeez, man, probably since about 50, probably 20 years.
So if you were competing with your uncle, who do you think is is better at the top box?
Which uncle?
Mucho.
Oh, Mucho know I'll destroy him on talk box. Look, Mucho, he calling me now to do the talk box on some of his new stuff with the group that he's working on.
Blackmail.
Yeah, blackmail.
Okay.
Yeah, he's right now. He's like, "What my talk about?" I said, "Dude, what my talk about?" I said, he
Okay.
still talking to me like I'm the little nephew. What my talk about? I said, "Dude, think I'm something to play with? Say my talk about."
Okay.
No, but
Okay.
the thing about but the thing about him, I think because there was kind of Teddy's thing when he picked it up, he dibble and dabble with him, but the way his brain thinks, he's a scientist when it comes to music and learning how to do stuff. If he wanted to and he really put his focus on it, he probably, if he wanted to, could have been top number one, because that's just the way everything is. He turned to a scientist with everything that he do. He would have figured out how to do, like, he built the talk box. We all build talk box. He built a talk box like a year ago, and he got lights when he played. He got lights going up through the tube, like,
wow.
You know.
Yeah, no, I mean, as I said, it was a real pleasure connecting with him and stuff. But yeah, definitely, I definitely appreciate this interview and stuff. I think one of the things I would ask you to help me do is because when I do research some of the tracks that you said you'd done, it would be great to, if I knew the names of it, then I can be able to push it alongside of it and stuff.
You got it, man. You're gonna be the first to get the Blackstreet single. We actually gonna release 2 singles at one time.
Okay, yeah.
If I get the green light, you'll be the first to get them.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, it's yeah, and yeah, because I remember like Father MC has pretty much have his whole new album, but it's the kind of stuff that you keep and listen and critique. But yeah, but I do appreciate reaching out, hearing your stuff, but also keeping it positive too, because at any time not trying to. I've had interviews with people who've said stuff, and I've edited it out, not because I just didn't want conflicts and stuff, and they probably didn't think of anything and stuff. So it's good that we keep it positive and stuff. Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, to press the notification bell so that you can be notified when we do have a new interview. Loads to come, but thanks a lot for watching.
I begin to